All right, let's just say it. Most people have no idea what a death doula does. Some people think that I'm a spiritual midwife for the dying. Other people think I light candles and read poetry. And most people will ask straight up, what the fuck do you even do? And why would I need someone like you? Now, if you've ever wondered the same thing, or you're facing a situation where death is a very real outcome, this video is for you. And hi, if you're new here, my name is Death Doula Beth, and we're going to talk about what a death doula actually does when it's the right time to hire one, and how we hold space in a way that makes grief a little bit more bearable. And then somewhere in the middle, I'm going to share a story of when a client called me too late. So let's get into it. What is a death doula? If you look at the word doula in itself, it is a non-medical professional who helps in medical transitions, such as a birthing doula or a death doula. Now, we are not medical professionals and we're not a therapist. We are non-clinical, but we are holistic in our nature. You can think of us as filling the gap between medical world and emotional and spiritual world. Now, a death doula is a non-medical professional who helps aid those who are dying and their families through all the stages of death. So the death, the dying, and the grief phases of life. I help people plan for death, walk through death, and live better because of death. You can think of me as your spiritual project manager at the end of life. So you might be wondering, what does a death doula actually do? Well, our services entail a lot of different things. So I'm going to go over a non-comprehensive list of things that a death doula probably will offer. One of the major things that we do offer is emotional support, especially at end of life. Emotions are running high, anxieties are running high. There's a lot that's going on within the dynamic of the family. And so we offer a lot of emotional support during this time. Because we're familiar with the terminology and the stages of this part of life, we're going to be familiar with what you might be feeling. And so having a person who is neutral and third party, who knows more about this stuff and is able to sit with you and your family during this time is priceless. We also offer spiritual support. Now, there are some death doulas who specialize in different religious practices. I personally am just a spiritual person, so it's all different types of spiritual practices. But you will find other death doulas out there who are very specific in the practices that they offer. Now, something that we do offer is advanced care planning. Now, you might be thinking, what is advanced care planning, Beth? I have no idea what that means. I already did my insurance papers with my insurance guy. I already talked to my lawyer about the lawyer things. Now, it's much more than just that. It's thinking about the whole picture, some things that we don't think about until we're actually in the situation. And because death doulas are very well versed in what happens, the fallout that can happen afterwards, we're going to be more prepared to help you get more prepared. So some of the things that a death doula will cover is getting your healthcare proxy in order, making sure your health proxy knows that they're your health proxy, getting all of your people who are going to be speaking on your behalf when you can't speak for yourself in order and known, having family meetings so that everybody's on the same page, making sure that you have all your affairs in order, meaning your final arrangements. Do they know what to do? Do they know where to go? And even where do they find the documents that all these things are in? Now, I just want to say here that we do not replace an elder law attorney or a funeral home. They are specific for those industries. We just help fill the gap so that you can get your orders together to then provide to these establishments. This helps you save time, money, and headache. And another thing that we help plan for is legacy work. What kind of legacy do you want to leave after you're gone? Now, this could be as simple as how do you want your memorial service or your celebration of life, but it can also be what kind of nonprofit do you want to start? Do you want to start a movement of some type? What is it that you want? I have also worked with families who have already lost their person, and now we get to do the legacy work. And so it's a beautiful way to commemorate the life that you've lived. Now, there is a really cool thing that you can do as far as legacy work, and that is creating videos or personalized letters. I talk about this a lot, especially on my channel, because it's a really wonderful way for your family and your loved ones to have a piece of you going forward. So the most common thing that you think of when I say the word death doula is vigil and bedside, especially when someone is on their way out. Now, I'm going to break this into two different categories, vigil and bedside. Vigil is when someone is actively dying and we are vigilantly waiting for them to pass. So that particular time is so sacred, and it's so important to have the people that you want there. And so creating that plan and creating what that looks like and what that feels like, not only for you, but your family and your loved ones during that time is super important. It's going to put you at rest and everyone else at rest and peace. So we help make that clear. We walk through the whole process in a very supportive way. And so the other part of this is bedside presence. And bedside presence is when someone is still lucid. They're still awake. Maybe they're not in the actively dying phase, but we still want someone there at all times. So we help with that planning phase to make sure that that all runs smoothly, that you don't have 50 people come at once and then nobody for days on end. So we make sure that there's a constant supply and a consistency throughout this experience so that the caregiver also has support because the caregiver is needing support at this time. And another thing that death doulas offer is grief support before and after death. Now, this can include support groups or rituals. Some may even do energetic closures, or it's just navigating the family dynamics. And you know what's best for you and your family and your loved ones. And how I usually describe my services, especially like what I do, is I help you have the hard conversations before the crisis sets in. I hold your hand during the shitstorm, and I help pick up the emotional pieces after the funeral ends. So at this point of the video, you might be asking, well, when should I hire a death doula? Well, I say as soon as possible. Though we do help a lot with end of life during the actively dying phase, our services branch out way before and way after that particular moment. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I really just don't know. I'm not at that point yet. Fine, that's okay. The best time though is when you get a diagnosis. That's when you're going to feel the anticipatory grief rising up and feeling a little unsettled. It becomes real, it becomes raw, and it becomes, oh, where do we even start? Now, if you're someone who's like, you know what, that sounds awful to me. I don't want to be in a crisis and then not know what to do and be going through all those emotions. I'm going to do something now. I want to be more conscious about my approach to this end of life thing. If that's you, reach out sooner than later. And if you're watching this video and you're thinking about it, you're probably already in the window of where a doula can help. So I told you I'd tell you a story of when a client called me too late. This type of story happens way too often, and I get it. You know, death and dying is such a it's such a hard conversation to have. I truly get it. But we could have saved so much stress and offered so much more support if they would have called earlier. So this person in particular was one of my first clients in the very beginning. They were so death averse and they didn't want to talk about it at all. And it wasn't until they were bedridden and there was no denying that this was it. This was their time. And it was just the game over. You know, we just have no other options. And so I go in and they were just about going unconscious at that point. And I remember thinking, oh boy, what can I say to this person to help with this transition? Because I know that they're scared and I know that they don't want to have this conversation. And before I even said a word, this person looked at me and said, I should have called you sooner. And I said, it's okay, we're here now. And we talked and we just held space. And, you know, the person ended up going very peacefully and very beautifully. I was able to support the family afterwards. And, you know, that stuck with me. I don't want anyone to ever go into that sort of situation feeling unprepared, scared, and just not knowing what to do. Now, we were able to get most of their plans in place before they went unconscious, but not all situations are like that. We just happened to catch them right in time. And so I urge you that if you feel the nudge, at least get your plans written down. Now, I know for a fact that I did what I could with the time I was provided, but I feel like I failed that person. And I know that people are ready when they're ready, but I still can't help but feel that urge. Now, it shook out the way that it shook out, and it happened exactly the way that it was meant to. But I would be doing a disservice if I didn't share that story for the reason that it doesn't have to be rushed and it doesn't have to be some scary thing. Because one of the things that I did hear afterwards was, Wow, you know what? That wasn't as scary as I thought. And now I have so much more peace and I can go more peacefully. So here are some ways to know when it's time to call a death doula. If you're holding space for a dying parent, partner, child, if you're drowning in grief and just still handling the logistics, or you feel like you aren't able to move forward. If you're the go-to person for your family, or if you're a spiritual person and you want your death or your loved one's death more sacred rather than sterile, then it's time to talk to a death doula. And another thing, you hire a birthing doula as soon as you find out that you're having a baby. And so you should have a death doula the moment that you know that you're going to die someday. So why not hire a death doula? Now, you don't need a death doula, but if you want someone who's going to hold your hand while you fall apart and help you put things in place before the chaos, if you want to have a death that feels more sacred and not just scheduled, and if you're tired of feeling like no one else wants to talk about what's actually happening, that's where I come in. This work is sacred and it's human and it's available to you now. You can book a clarity call with me. The link is in the description. And if you want a copy of the 10 questions I ask my clients, sign up for my newsletter and I'll send you the conscious death checklist that I work through with every client. And if you're interested in doing this work, I do train other death doulas. So book a call. But that's all for now. So I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye for now.